Hey everyone, welcome to Roll for Combat Emergency Live Session. That's right. So it turns out that breaking news, I actually was expecting this. I didn't expect this to happen quite so fast, but it looks like a emergency court, the federal court on Wednesday ruled that President Trump does not have the authority under the Economic Emergency Legislation Act to impose sweeping global tariffs. So I actually expected this, and we can go into this a little bit. And I'm live, and I'll answer questions about this. So, because I've been dealing with these tariffs quite a bit, and I've been talking to a million people about it. I will send you. You can look up. There's about a million articles on this. Actually, it's too long for me to copy, but Axios, and you can look this up. But very, very, very. It's actually not a district court. It's actually a federal court. So there's a federal court that no one really talks about, but there's let's see, which court is it? It is the I'm looking it up. Which court is it? It is the court of the U.S. Court of International Trade. So it is a federal court that oversees federal trade, and basically, what we've been talking about this in my industry quite a bit is that these tariffs were basically illegal, and the main reason is that they were designed in 1977 to deal with, well, either we're at war with someone or if there was, quote, extraordinary circumstances. And Trump basically said that we are war with everyone because of fentanyl, except for North Korea and Russia. Those are the only two countries accepted from this. And because we're at war with every country in the world, because of this, he has the authority to set tariffs. It looks like the several states and businesses, two huge groups of plaintiffs, like thousands of businesses and several states, sued on the grounds that basically the president doesn't have the authority to grant tariffs. The only person who can is Congress, which is true, and that he was overreaching his ability to impose tariffs, especially when it comes to sweeping tariffs in all the categories. So basically, categories, there's different categories you could assign tariffs to. Why is this important? Well, because gaming had tariffs of 0%. So now people are wondering, well, is this going to affect anything? I'll tell you why. Because the people who set the tariffs are actually the actual port administrators who do this. So this is a little different than, like, for example, like they're not issuing the ruling to the federal government. They're issuing this ruling in like the country and the world. So it is up to then those actual the people who impose the tariffs and collect the tariffs. They have to decide whether or not they're going to apply by this or stick by it. So what's going to happen? Who knows? And things are going to go a little bit crazy. But this was, it looks like, unanimous ruling, and it went right to ruling. They didn't even go through motions. They just went right to the ruling, and it said the court does not read the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 to confer such unbounded authority and sets aside the challenged tariffs imposed thereunder. And the judges who heard it were Reagan, Obama, and Trump appointees. They skipped over motions of injunction and went right directly to verdict. And they just said that the IEEPA, that's the name of the ruling, does not authorize the worldwide retaliatory or trafficking orders and does not allow these tariffs to go through. So what does that mean? Very long story short, all these tariffs that have been imposed throughout the world are, in theory, null and void and go back to where they were before Trump took office. And the only person who's allowed to impose tariffs is Congress. And that's it. So now, again, who will be able to determine this? Who knows? It's probably going to be a mess. But the people who have to actually end up paying these tariffs and end up paying for these ports have a lot of power and have a lot of influence. And they're the ones who are going to really, make sure that this, well, I would expect they're going to try to make sure this gets enforced quite a bit. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But it's definitely a big blow, and it definitely helps, um, especially when it comes to gaming, because gaming was getting destroyed right now. As you know, I mean, even a 30% tariff on gaming is just too much. It really hurts the gaming industry. Now, again, tariffs can still be imposed, but it has to be imposed by Congress. Okay, and the chances of Congress like passing tariff acts, especially against the entire world, is pretty slim to none, I would say, especially now. But it reaffirms the Constitution and how it's supposed to be. So where is this going to be? Who knows? But it's definitely going to be fought heavily by, pretty much the states. And something else is that you can see this happen is that where the biggest ports well, I'll say it right now, they're in blue states. The biggest ports are in California, they're the West Coast, they're the East Coast. Pretty much all the ports are in heavily blue states. So I imagine these rulings will be held up. And more importantly, there's not that many ports. And let me tell you, like right now, I believe I ship to Portland. That's where I ship my books. And if we find out that, well, Portland is still tariffing me at the full amount, but then the port of LA isn't, well, then I'm just going to ship all my books to LA. And yeah, if there's going to be a big delay, who cares? And that's also going to happen, is that these ports, in the end of the day, they need to make money. Okay, in the end of the day, these ports need to make money. And that's the beautiful thing about free economy, is that, well, if one port is going to, give you the better tariffs and the other port isn't, and everyone's going to the port that gives you better tariffs, well, then they have to compete. And again, if a federal court holds up that these are illegal, then they're not breaking the law. So this will be interesting to see what happens. Well, that's really basically all I had to say, is that this is a very good news for everyone in the gaming industry. Well, actually, in every industry, because this basically wipes out all the tariffs. Now, it's different when it comes to the tariffs from Canada and Mexico, because those are under a different ruling. And those of you who don't know, basically, it's sort of the replacement of NAFTA. It's a trading ruling that they have between the United States and those two countries. And there is a clause in there that in extraordinary circumstances, such as like drug trafficking or such, that they could impose tariffs on each other. So it's a little bit not so great yet. We still have to worry about Canada and Mexico, and that still has to be addressed. But the big one of, well, pretty much every other country on planet Earth will probably go back to zero. It won't happen right away. And just to let you know, behind the scenes, like I've been talking to people all the time. I'm talking to my warehouses. I'm talking to people who actually run these tariffs. I'm talking to people who actually collect the tariffs. Like, I'm actually on the ground and I'm talking to people, and they expected this. They actually all expected this. They were hoping for it. I'm kind of surprised it happened so quick. I'm actually very glad it happened so quick. I didn't think this was going to happen until well into the summer, but this is pretty interesting. So anyhow, that is pretty much it. If you go and look for the information, I'm sure this is going to be breaking all over the place. I actually see it it's like top of my news cycle everywhere, because this will be big news tomorrow, as well as for the markets tomorrow, because I imagine the markets will be up like insane amounts, because this really will maybe even help save Christmas. And these tariffs, again, if you're interested in like follow the toy industry, like the toy industry has been going crazy, because this is like going to destroy the toy industry. It's estimated that if tariffs stay in place, that something like a quarter to half of all the toy manufacturers in the United States will basically go under, because their margins are so thin, and they already purchased everything for this year, and they just can't afford, like the way it works. Again, I've said this before in the stream, like you just get a bill. Like this just happened to me. Like I just got a bill on Friday. No, actually it was Thursday. I got a bill last Thursday that said, here's your tariff bill. Your goods are expected to come in by Monday. You have to pay this now. And if you do not pay this, they're actually supposed to send your stuff back, but most of them will just destroy it. So like you have like a week to pay it. And if you don't pay it, we'll destroy your stuff. And that's it. And you have there's you go to court and you could pay it and try to get your money back, but that might take years. In fact, I want my money back now because guess what? I paid that tariff on Friday, and actually the goods I don't think have showed up. They're supposed to show up on Monday, and they're a little late, which is kind of crazy because there's no ships in the port right now. But anyhow, my ship is late for my goods, and I want my money back. So I paid the tariffs, and that kind of sucks. And think about the people who actually paid the 145%. I know people that were getting bills for $250,000 when they were supposed to get a bill for zero. Actually, this won't be overturned by the Supreme Court because, again, I can see it. Yes, I can see them actually going to it, but it's actually a very simple ruling. Is that there's a law, and the law only allows you to impose tariffs, you being the president, if you're at war. That's pretty much it. You can go through it, but like you have to be at war. The whole purpose of the law that was made in 1977 was that if we're at war with a country, that as the commander in chief, that they can impose tariffs that have to be reviewed by Congress every 6 months, by the way. So it's not even unlimited power. Like he can do it, but then Congress has to review them and approve them, and they still have the power to strike them down if they want. So it's not unlimited power. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, the administration's already peeling it. So, but I imagine that, yes, the only other place this can go would be the Supreme Court. And it doesn't require war. It requires a national emergency. So, yeah, it requires an extreme national emergency. But they basically did overreach, I would say, because it's like, okay, they're saying, like, again, if they were like, okay, well, the national emergency is like one country was doing something to us, but their national emergency is that the entire world is out to get us, and we therefore need to impose tariffs on the entire world. Okay? He basically went way too far. In fact, might happen, if I was to guess, is that he'll scale it back and then he'll just target China and then maybe just like one or two other countries, But the problem is like he tariffed every country, including a few countries that literally don't exist. He literally tariffed so many countries that he actually tariffed countries because the tariffs were actually done using internet domain codes, and some domain codes are like islands that are completely uninhabited. So that's how they got a couple of weird countries in there that literally don't exist in any way, shape, or form. And they just, like, some of these countries have extreme poverty and they're getting hit by tariffs. Okay. And they're saying, well, it's a national emergency because these countries that have no population whatsoever, that are inhabited by penguins, we need to tariff them because it's a national emergency. There we go. The law specifies states that Article 3 judges can't review it. Well, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a expert at law. I mean, I've been following this pretty closely. And again, this is just what I've been talking to with my friends and colleagues in the industry. But we will see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oh, yeah, right. He's even trying to tariff American companies, right? He's trying to actually specifically tariff specific companies, not just actual countries, but like he actually said he wanted to tariff Mattel, and then he wanted to tariff Apple. You can't do that. You could tariff very specific codes, but you can't tariff very specific. I won't get into it. It's a little too crazy. But will this have any issue on my Kickstarters, by the way? Someone wants to know. No, not really. There is a small fee. I've had to pay a 7.5% fee on my books. I used to be 0%, but now it's 7.5. Right now I'm eating it. I mean, at worst, I might ask for like $1 or $2. I think literally like maybe $2 from each. That would cover it, like for all the tariff fees that I'm paying. So it would actually help, believe it or not, just like $1, just $1 from each backer would actually cover the fees, which adds up. But as for the other things that I bought, like the tchotchkes and stuff, those are being tariffed. But I bought them ahead of time before the tariffs like hit us. The one thing I didn't do is we have these plushies that are in our last Kickstarter, and I did not get these in time. So I'm actually going to wait a little bit because right now I can bring them in, but they are tariffed at 30%. So I'm going to wait to see if anything happens because there's 30%. It adds up. It adds up very quickly. So we'll see. But yeah, these guys are the only ones that missed the tariff boat, so to speak. So, but this is going to definitely be the biggest story in the news in the new area. Let's see. Yes. Well, yeah, again, there's no problem with bringing things back to the United States. Okay. There really isn't a problem with it, but you can't, these are things that are done very slowly over time and the other things you usually do when you bring industries back to the United States is you give incentives. This happens all the time. So that you bring incentives and that this way that manufacturing is actually brought back here. And I actually said this earlier today, is that, for example, for me, it's printing. And for a lot of mini manufacturers, it's actually creating minis and plastics. All the books, like, these are the books that I print. Like all my books, like all the inks and all the paper that I use all comes from China. So if I want my books to be consistent, they have to be bought from China, which then are tariffed 30%. So even if I use an American printer, I still have to buy my materials from China. And then like mini manufacturers, they still buy all their beads from China. So it's not just simple as saying, oh, let's just buy American. Well, it's not just buy American. You actually have to get all the supplies and materials to create things. And it's a good analogy is look inside your car. It sounds weird, but follow me for a second. Like open up the hood of your car and look inside the car. Okay. Now open up the hood of a car from the 70s. All right. And you can Google this and look inside there and you're going to be seeing that there's nothing. Like how many parts are inside a car? You'll be surprised. Like a car from the 60s and 70s, it was practically empty. One person could do everything in the car. You open up a car now, it is just filled to the gills with a million pieces, a million moving parts, and all those parts, they come from different parts of the world, okay? That's what it's like to manufacture now. It's simple as something like books. Like you think, oh, you could just make a book in the United States. Well, not really, because the actual printing presses, well, they aren't made here in the United States. So those have to be bought from China. And then the paper manufacturing, well, back in the day, there weren't that many paper options. Like I went to my printer and I wanted to get some paper samples, and they sent me a freaking book of how many paper samples I have to use. And the ones I use, I actually use very nice, the special gold style 80-pound paper. I use this really cool paper that I really like. And I actually want all my books to have the same type of paper. You can't get that, okay? Maybe someone can make it in the United States, but right now it's not being made in the United States. And on top of that, like a book like this uses very specific, I actually need a very specific printer because it has both gold foil as well as UV, as well as some other, it's a very specific type of printing process to print this. You can't find this in the United States. Like I literally can't print this book currently in the United States right now. It's at least not in quantities of less than like 100,000, which I'm not doing. So this specific type of book is literally not available in the United States. Now, maybe in a year or 2 or 3, it will be, and maybe everything else that I need to print the book will be, but right now it's not. All right. So simple as that. So anyhow, so that is all I just wanted to say. And I will talk to you guys later. And I will see you all next Wednesday with our standard Roll for Combat live stream. See ya.